Hello and a warm welcome. It is morning for those of you who are in Europe, and a very good evening for all of you joining us from Asia today. Meditation, I would like to think or say it is as an exercise for the brain. Through meditation, we can build up areas for the brain and actually rewire it to enhance positive traits like focus and decision making. And also at the same time, we can diminish the less positive ones like fear and stress. Most importantly, this means that there is a possibility to change your brain for the better in a way that it is long lasting. Joining us today from Spain, Madrid to be in specific, is our brother. I like to call him brother because he is just like a brother to me. Is Brother Bill, who is a teacher, a lecturer, and also a member of the Spanish coordination team. He joined the Brahma Kumari since more than 30 years now, since 1986. And we all shall welcome him and let him give us his guidance and experience also on the benefits and how to attain the higher stages of meditation. Welcome, Brother Bill. You are on mute, brother. Sorry. Um, okay. You need to unmute yourself. Yes.
Now,
Okay.
no,
Yes.
I was clicking, but it didn't work.
I
I don't know
see.
why. So many thanks, I would say, Sister Jamin, for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to share with all of you. And yes, I'm running with a team the center of Madrid, and this is the capital of Spain. So my pleasure to share a few thoughts with all of you and some moments of meditation, which I think is essential, because what we really need in all these subtle aspects of the mind, consciousness, and these things we need to experience, not just to understand or think about that, but also to practice. So I would start by saying that this topic, higher stages of consciousness, is connected with this aspect that there are many debates nowadays among scientists. And if we look at videos in YouTube, does anyone here is looking videos from time to time? I think everyone is looking videos from time to time. Of course, you will look the videos of the areas that you are interested in. And if you look for these areas, you will see that there is a lot of debate of what is the interaction between mind and matter. Does there is only a physical reality, or there is consciousness as a different dimension of reality, different than matter? Of course, there are the materialistic scientists who think that there is only matter and there is only the body, and whatever experience we have of consciousness, that's just a byproduct of the brain. But then there are also scientists that belong more to the quantum physics realm, that they think that there are these two realities: there is consciousness and there is matter, and both are interacting. Here in the Brahma Kumaris, of course, in Raja Yoga, we also have this perspective of two different levels of energy. So consciousness is a different level of reality, a different energy. Let's say that there is the physical energy, the body and the physical world around us. And then there is consciousness. But let me share you a few thoughts about how do we easily can experience that consciousness goes beyond matter. And these are very simple things that anyone can experience. But I would like to share about one scientist. You can check in YouTube, in the internet, you can find him easily. His name is Rupert Sheldrake. He's a biologist from UK, and he's very interested in experimentation with topics like telepathy, things like that. But not just to theorizing about that, but he's conducted many experiments. And he has many books. One of the books, well, in several of his books, he talks about this concept of the extended mind. How whatever we think and we see through even we look through our own eyes has an effect around us. And one experience that maybe all of us have had at some point is that we have felt that someone is staring at us, even if that person is not in front of us. I'm sure you must have had sometimes this experience that you feel something, that someone is staring at you. So this is what he explains, that this concept of the extended mind means that even wherever you look at, especially if you look to a conscious being, another person, but it can be also an animal. It doesn't need to be a person, it can be an animal. You are looking at them, you are staring at them, and they feel that. So it means that when you stare at someone, some vibration, some kind of influence is reaching them. Otherwise, they would not feel that. So that is a very clear example that how our consciousness expands and reaches out farther away than the limits of this body and this brain. Brain is very important. It's the computer of this machine, biological machine that is the body. But there is an energy that expands. He calls this the extended mind. And so he has conducted many experiments with lots of people, and he has done statistics of see how many cents that someone is looking at them, and not looking at them in the front, but looking at them when they don't know, they cannot see him or see her, the one who is staring at them. They don't know, but they can sense that someone is staring at them. And the percentage is very high. It's 60-70% of people are able to notice that. And even in animals, in the animal kingdom, those animals who are able to sense this, and they are more able to be free from the predators, for instance. They are more able to save themselves. So this is a kind of ability that we have in our consciousness of sensing this energy of someone paying attention to us, looking at us. They are focusing their attention to us. And this is a small example. He has many studies about this, and it's very interesting. This is just a small example to show that consciousness, of course, is affecting the world around us. The vibrations of our consciousness are reaching out there and are influencing the world around us. The consciousness is influencing matter, but not only matter, but it's influencing the minds of other conscious beings. At a more spiritual level, I would share You know, Brahma Kumaris comes from the name Brahma. Brahma Baba was the founder of Brahma Kumaris. And one example that I always share is that Brahma Baba was a very great yogi with a high level of consciousness, very high. And so many used to share their experience that when they used to be in front of Brahma Baba, they had gone to him to ask him things or ask for advice with many problems in their heads. But when they were in front of him and Brahma Baba invited them to have 1 or 2 minutes of silence, of meditation together, the vibrations were of such a deep peace and harmonious feelings that after those 1 or 2 minutes of silence, they would forget about the questions and the problems they brought in front of Brahma Baba. I think that would be a very good method for all of us to finish the long explanations, detailed explanations, just by sharing powerful vibrations of peace. So this is what I am referring to with the topic of today, exploring and experiencing higher stages of consciousness. Because first of all, there is a benefit for ourselves. If we experience a high stage of consciousness, that means, in essence, that means to experience a stage of consciousness filled with peace, filled with harmony, filled with power of silence, filled with positive vibrations, filled with spiritual love, all these qualities. When we are in the experience, in the deep experience of these qualities, we are really in a high level of consciousness. And many things are happening, but what happens is that because consciousness is subtle, you can't see it, those things happen at a subtle level. The first thing that happens is that those very pure and high vibrations, what is the matter that is nearest to consciousness? Is the body, right? So these vibrations influence your own body. Your own body is the first thing, because the body, in fact, is a thing. The body is matter. The body is not you. This is the change of consciousness we need to have. You are the user of this body, the commander of the body. But the body benefits highly from these powerful spiritual vibrations. But not only the body, but you can sense all around a person that is in a deep stage of yoga, deep higher level of consciousness, spreads these vibrations all around. I didn't have the fortune to meet Brahma Baba, the founder, because he left the body in 69, and I would be 9 years old, very disconnected from this spiritual knowledge and all these ideas. But I had the fortune to meet Daddy Yankee, who left the body last year in 2020 with 104 years of age. And I can see that, I can remember that just being close to her physically, I could sense very powerful, peaceful, loveful vibrations. And she didn't need to say anything. It was there. It was in the atmosphere around her. And just by being next to her, I felt like very respectful. My mood, for instance, if I wanted the same experience as I shared before, if I wanted to talk a lot, next to Daddy, I would feel that it was not right to talk so much. And I would talk to her very peacefully, very slowly, And she didn't say anything. It was just her presence and those powerful vibrations, her consciousness, the consciousness of that spiritual being. Whether you call it consciousness, spiritual being, the soul, in terms of Raj Yoga meditation, it is the same thing. It is the spiritual energy that occupies this body. So human being is a combination of the two energies, physical energy of the body and spiritual energy of the soul, the self, the spirit, whatever you want to call it. These are just names, but it's the conscious energy that inhabitates this physical body. That many remember this. There is a lot of connection with this concept of the third eye. This is the position internally in the head, the position of that point of conscious energy of the self. So let us have a moment of silence now, and I will share with you a couple of thoughts just to create a higher stage of consciousness, just to go within, and with these ideas, allow yourself to feel, to visualize, to see yourself as a shining star point of energy inside this head, and just to have the thought that I am this wonderful star of spiritual energy, and I am a being of peace, a peaceful soul, a peaceful being. My deep nature is of peace and silence. Just hold these thoughts for a few moments and see your body as something different than you. You are the guest in this body, a spiritual being using and occupying this body. Your throne is in the middle of the forehead, in the place of the third eye. But you are a being of light, a being of spiritual energy. And this body is a wonderful biological machine that you can use to express yourself and to play your part. But you are the soul, the being of light. Just allow yourself to hold these thoughts and experience these thoughts for a few moments. And if you notice, we use the words Om Shanti to finish these exercises. And if you notice, just a few thoughts allow us to go to a different stage of consciousness. In this spiritual stage of consciousness, it is as if we naturally become internally in ourselves more peaceful, more relaxed. There is more quietness inside. And by itself, peace, calm, is a higher stage of consciousness, because in fact, We are normally in our big cities everywhere in the world. We are thinking a lot. We have scattered thoughts. Our mind is distracted by so many things. We have certain levels, different for each one, of course, but we have certain levels of stress, of tension, and other negative emotions inside. And that's what we call normal. It's very sad, but a normal person means that a person that is really quite peaceless. Because to see someone who is peaceful in a constant way, that is really not normal nowadays. You don't see that many persons that are peaceful all the time or most of the time. So we are raising our level of consciousness just with a few thoughts. And what I suggest is that we need to experience with all of this, but experience in a practical way in our practical life. One experiment that I enjoy very much, just as I was sharing before, that idea that just by staring at someone, you are reaching them, you are influencing them. It is as if you are touching them in a subtle way. But of course, you need to see with which kind of energy you are touching them. Because, for instance, if you stare at someone with anger, you will touch them with angry energy, or with other negative energies. Or you can be in a higher stage of consciousness, in peace, and when you stare at them, they will receive also that. And one experiment we can do, we can all practice, is that when we meditate and we stabilize ourselves in this deeper and higher stage of consciousness, check the results, check the influence you have with someone in front of you. See when, after that meditation, after you feel in that stage, check how do you feel and how it affects your relation with another one, another person. This is a very easy experiment, and of course, it depends on how powerful, how deep, and how strong is our level of consciousness, because sometimes what may happen is that you are quite peaceful, but if the other person has a lot of negative energy, maybe your defenses are not enough. And finally, you end up influenced by the other person. But there is an effect. And we can do this very easily, anytime, to reach this stage and to experiment with this. Another level is when this is the basic thought to go to a higher consciousness is, I am a soul, I am a spiritual being. And we can add the quality of peace. I am a peaceful soul. I am a being of peace. Excuse me, just a bit of water, because the body also has its needs. Next level, keeping the peace inside of us, is the level that we are going to experience now. Just a few thoughts. I'm inviting you to go within again and allow your body to find a posture of balance. Just go within and open yourself again to this experience of being the spiritual being the conscious being inside this body. And one way of visualizing the spiritual energy is visualizing it as a star, point of light. I am this point of light, this peaceful soul. And now open yourself to this level of consciousness in which you can see the different scenes of life, whatever happens around you, as if you were watching a movie or a theater play. Something is happening outside. You can watch it, you can observe it, but as if you are an observer, you remain detached. You see it as a movie, as a play. And you're not only in peace, but even more, you can be in a loveful stage of mind. So you can have loving feelings, benevolent feelings towards all the actors and actresses in this play, but you remain detached. And this is a very special stage of consciousness in which you can experience yourself as detached and loving and an observer. You're an observer in peace, in deep peace, and you are very detached and very loving. You are watching the play. Internally, you are detached. Externally, in a practical situation, you probably will interact and you will do whatever you need to do externally, but internally, you remain detached, peaceful, and loving. This is a very deep and high level of consciousness. And I invite you to experience this right now. You are the detached observer in peace, detached, loving, very peaceful. Just open yourself to this experience and see how would you respond to the different situations in your life, in your family, in your job, maybe. How would you respond if you were in this stage of consciousness? Om Shanti. I remember that one brother, one spiritual teacher, Ram Prakash from the US, he was in the Twin Towers in 2001 when there was the terrorist attack, 9/11. So he shared that he was in the 60th floor when the planes crashed. And he shared that he didn't have any fear. Of course, he was already at that time, 2001, he was a very experienced meditation teacher. But he shared that he was not in fear. He was not in panic. He was observing all those things as a detached observer. That was the fruit of his practice. And he saved himself and many others that went with him. They arrived to the exit. And so he became a leader for a whole group of people to to go out of the tower, and then the tower collapsed. But the main thing I wanted to share is this, that he was sharing this experience of the detached observer. Imagine in that situation, which is any one of us, we may have many problems, but I don't think, no matter how important these problems are, I don't think not we will not we cannot compare our situations to being in such incredible situation, no? Under the terrorist attack and at the risk of losing your life right there. So this is the power of the detached observer stage. It's a very high stage. And of course, in that stage, you have even more influence towards those around you. And then let's go to a third stage that would be the highest of all. And it is the what I would call God's connection, because in this spiritual realm, this spiritual dimension, just as we can connect with each other at a spiritual level, and we can feel the vibrations of each other at a spiritual level, and the more subtle becomes our attention, the more we can catch even the vibrations of the thoughts of those around us, and we can sense, we call it intuition many times at a common level, but this intuition, in fact, in my understanding, it has to be a lot with catching these vibrations. This is what we call intuition. But just as this can happen in this physical world with people who are spiritual beings, in fact, there is an energy very much powerful, more powerful than any soul of this world. And we understand and experience that energy as the supreme being. Call him God, the supreme being, the supreme light, the supreme soul. These are just names. But in meditation, when we are in silence, we can tune with the highest level of vibrations of all, which are the vibrations that this wonderful being is radiating all the time, all the time. It's a matter of tuning in. Once we tune, we can feel like a shower of these very high and powerful vibrations. Imagine God's vibrations will be certainly the most powerful and the highest level of vibrations. So I think this is the ultimate goal for Raj Yogi. We call Raj Yogi those who practice Raj Yoga meditation. This is the ultimate goal, is to be in connection, we call it in yoga, with the Supreme Being, with the Supreme Soul, because then you will raise your level of consciousness to the highest level that is achievable for a human soul, which is to be in tune with the purest, the highest, the most powerful vibrations of the Supreme Being. It is as if the vibrations of God are also of peace, of love, of bliss, of happiness, of purity. But the intensity, the depth, the level of those vibrations this is why we call it supreme, the Supreme Being, Supreme Soul, because no human soul can have that level of spiritual power. So let us take a few moments to experience with a few thoughts. Maybe we can go through the other two exercises and then go to the third level. So we can begin this meditation exercise. Can begin by going within and first tuning with the awareness of the spiritual being that I am. So I break the identification with the physical body and I identify myself with the tiny star of spiritual light, the point of light in the middle of the forehead, the star of peace, of silence, the spiritual being. And just this thought that I am different than this body of matter. This body of matter is an instrument. It's a vehicle. It's a way, it's a support for me to express myself and to play a part. But now in meditation, I open myself to experience my true nature as a being of light, being of spiritual energy, my true nature of peace, peace and silence. And I tune with these inner qualities. This peace, this silence are my natural nature. And as I become more and more peaceful, more silent, I begin to watch and to be aware of everything from a stage of detachment. I detach myself externally and internally from all the situations of my life, all the scenes that are happening. I really watch everything as a play, as a movie, and I stay in the awareness of who am I really? This detached observer with benevolent feelings, with loving feelings. So in a way, I detach myself from everything around me in this physical world. I stay now in connection with the spiritual dimension of reality. And from there, I open myself to the highest, most powerful influence of the universe. I visualize the energy of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Being, also a point of light, a point of spiritual energy, point of benevolence. And I feel and visualize from that being of light, a shower of rays of pure peace and pure love reaching me from the dimension of silence, reaching my soul, filling me with all I need. Deep peace, deep love, deep bliss. This is the highest level of consciousness in which I am completely tuned, connected with the Supreme Soul, Supreme Being, the eternal fountain of supreme qualities. I invite you just to take a few moments in silence to experience this connection, this benevolent connection. And slowly, slowly, we can come back just to just checking a little bit, how do I feel? How do I experience with these exercises? How do I experience myself? And my experience is that we need to give ourselves time to practice and to experiment with this every day. And we will see very easily how our higher level of consciousness is transforming ourselves and influencing in a positive way the world around us. So I will stop here, and very happy if you have any question or comment, whatever. Thanks for being present.
Thank you, Brother Bill. That was very nice. You took us to three exercises, I would say, or I would call it. Is first is to be aware of who we are, the being, the point of light in between, just in between the two eyebrows or right at the center of our forehead, the being of the true being that we are in this body. And then you took us to the second level of being a detached observer. So we see all the scenes and everything that is going on around us, yet not affected by it. And the third one is the main one, that we get connected to the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul and try to extract the power, the peace, the love, and take it back with us. So that was very, very beneficial. And also, what you told us, which is very, very true, that we sometimes are unaware, but aware that somebody is looking at us. And we tend to absorb the energy that is transferred to us, even though it is just by looking at us. So this is something that is very good, that how we can pass the energy or we can transform the energy from us to others, knowingly or unknowingly. But now that we are aware, we should be more careful that when we are looking at other people, what is it that we are transforming, or what is it that we are sending out there? I see that there are a few questions. I shall read them out to you. My efforts to go into higher consciousness becomes difficult because of tensions on facial muscles and have a heaviness on head to effort oh sorry heaviness on head to effort or focus. Can you please give us some advice how to have a really free from body consciousness or experience?
Well, sometimes it depends, no? Every case will be different. But sometimes we need some physical help because there is this interaction. The interaction is between soul and body, between mind and matter, or consciousness and matter. Consciousness is more accurate because in Raj Yoga, we talk about consciousness as being the self that contains, has mind, intellect, and unconscious, or we call it sanskars, the memories, etc. So that is consciousness, and then body is matter. But the reality is that it is not only consciousness influencing matter, but because we are so interlinked with matter, we are so connected with matter, and matter affects consciousness. So in relation with the question, I would say that sometimes we need to find a more physical solution. For instance, yesterday I went to my physiotherapist because I had in my face I had it is called a paralysis some years ago, and still is recovering this part of the head, this part of the face. But also my back has several small problems, and I can tell you by my own experience that after the treatment, I can meditate better because I don't have the burden of that tension, and this half face is much more relaxed. So there is no contradiction between one thing and the other. Of course, we need to keep the aim of reaching this higher level of consciousness, but we shouldn't take too much of a burden in the body if there's some physical solution. So I would look for some practical advice from medical or therapist advice how to reduce those tensions. Maybe we need a massage. Maybe we need to give ourselves a little bit of more physical care. Whatever is necessary, of course, only whatever is necessary. And then, because the body is in balance, when you go to meditate, your meditation is deeper and more powerful. So I would research a little bit on that. But I think there is no general answer because the reasons and the cause of tensions and other problems is different for each one. So I need to find out if there is something physical related with it. I hope this can be useful for you.
Yes, I think that is what is the beauty of meditation, that it not only um, benefits you in the mental way, but it also benefits you in the physical way. So sometimes when
Exactly.
we are meditating and we have physical pain or something, it just subsides the pain.
Exactly.
Rather, you had mentioned that sometimes when we come into interaction with others and that negative energy of that other person is absorbed by us, how do we overcome that? Because sometimes we are trying to help somebody who is in depression or who is in stress, and we try and advise them and trying to help them, but in the whole process we absorb that energy, and when we come back home we feel like burdened or heavy. So is there a way that we can get out of that energy?
My own experience is that at that moment, when that happens, I think you just have to tolerate it because I will clarify my perspective. But everything depends on the power, spiritual power we have accumulated inside. Everything depends on how powerful are those vibrations and how stable is my consciousness in that higher stage. And my experience is that right on the spot, at the moment that this happens, it's difficult to create that stage. That stage is something, according to my experience, that's something that you create before. So what I personally learn from this is that if something is influencing me, it is just telling me that my meditation, my practice has to be deeper. I need to, I shouldn't be, I shouldn't think that I'm fine and I am doing well. No, it's not enough powerful, my meditation, my practice. And it reminds me that I need to pay more attention. So in this way, we can take it very positively. It's a signal to accumulate more power of silence, more elevated consciousness, and then to check, maybe with maybe with the same person, to see the change. Then there is also some help if we are the ability, the skill, the practice to feel ourselves as instruments of the divine light, instruments of the Supreme Being, so that I am not using my energy, but I am like an instrument allowing those highest and pure vibrations going through me. If I have this practice, even if my stage is not so high, but I have this practice of surrendering that moment to the Supreme Light, I will be protected. I will be certainly protected. But I also need to practice that and to master that, because otherwise I will enter under the influence that we were saying before.
I like what you said, that that is a way of checking ourselves, that which level is your meditation at, so that it's a good test paper for us. Our next question is, can we reduce our desires through meditation? Cause more desires, more stress and frustration.
Yes, the question is very practical, and definitely, meditation is key, because desires, the question is, where are desires arising from? And if you observe yourself with honesty, you will see that desires arise from an empty feeling of emptiness and lack of attainment. And so I need to get something, to achieve something, to stimulate a feeling of achievement, feeling of value in the self. That is completely useless, in fact, because all those experiences that we get through our desires, even if we fulfill our desires, they are all experiences of a very limited nature, and very transient. The experience lasts for a very short time. It doesn't feel ourselves. And so, in fact, the real cure for our mind full of desires, by the way, this is the stage of humanity, all human beings, of course, at various degrees, but all human beings have minds filled with desires, because there is a spiritual emptiness. And so the more I uplift my level of consciousness and I reach a stable level of consciousness in which I experience in a natural way, that stage of peace, that stage of well-being, that stage of inner harmony, you will check by yourself and you will see that once you reach that level of meditation, and it's not that difficult, it's a question of practicing every day. Once you reach that level of consciousness, you can check that you meditate, and after the meditation, you will truly feel that you don't have any desire. The only desire you will have is to stay in that experience because it is the best. And this is when our higher level of consciousness is influencing our lives, because we are truly, as meditators, we are a threat for the consumption society. They call it, no? The society of consumption. We are a threat because just imagine if people meditate and become content and fulfilled, and they don't need to buy, they don't need to go so much to restaurants, to buy this, to eat that. I mean, the whole system can fluctuate. So this is a real threat, but it is a positive threat because we know that we are creating such chaos in our society. We are creating such um, environmental problem with so much consumption, with this crazy level of consumption. And I think the world needs this change. It's a change of consciousness. And then we appreciate much more things. We just take and consume whatever really is important or we need. And that's a completely new paradigm. But we can, at a personal level, discover this when we practice and we experience it in ourselves. Then we can see that it is possible to live without desires. And by the way, is the way to enjoy life. That is the way to enjoy life, to be free from desires.
Thank you very much, brother, once again. That was excellent. That was really beautiful. If we can really try to overcome all these desires that every day we have. But I must say, personally, I have seen not only in myself, but in many others too. This pandemic has brought about a lot of change for the better, I hope, and it
It's
remains
true.
that way. So, thank you very much once again, Brother Bill,
Thanks
and
very
thank you
much.
everyone for joining us today. Our next session will be on coming Saturday, the 23rd of October, with Brother Charlie from Australia. The topic is the depths of karma. So kindly drop me a message. I have dropped my number on the chat box. Feel free to drop me a message so I can update you with the login details. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and have a nice weekend. Om
Thanks,
Shanti.
Javin, and thanks to everyone for coming.